Hello everybody and welcome to a talkie video. Here we're playing board games, and Russ heard me talking to my high voice, so he's like, I love you, Dad. We're here. We finished up our first run of a campaign of Lure of the Valley for Earthborne Rangers, and we're going to talk about our thoughts on the game after completing one. I've been meaning to do a video like this for a while because I've had a very interesting journey with Earthborne Rangers, where I first played it with Travis and Bryn, and it just didn't click for me. And then I was like, you know what, I want to play this with Eric. So I actually was first like, I want to play it with Megan and Eric at the same time, but I think it's hard to make that work. So I was like, I'm going to just play with Eric, because Eric and I did a lot of role-playing games together, and I figured the vibe would fit better. And it did, and I enjoyed the game a lot more on my second play, enough that at this point I'm going to probably continue to buy expansions as they come out for this game. But Eric, this was your first time, so I'm going to throw this to you. What was your general thought on Earthborne Rangers?
My general thought on this is good, occasionally great. Yeah, I would rank this as, like, if we were doing like a Canadian grading system. For those of you who don't know, this is not going to make any sense to you. I'd call it a B+ to an A-.
Yeah.
As a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I do actually want to play it again with Megan and maybe with some other people as well.
Yeah, I think it would be... I think it's fun to me. I'm kind of right there with you. Like, I think... So for me, generally, this hovers around a B+. And it maybe goes down to, like, a B- when I'm not feeling it. But when I am feeling it, I think it's a solid, like, A. Like, the moments that really sing in this game really sing. But there are a few things that are a little bit sticky for me that we're going to get into when we come in here. But I will say before we get into this, if you are having a hard time with Earthborne Rangers and you haven't sold it yet, or you're considering buying it, one thing that I think you should really try to do is embrace the story more than the game. Embrace reading the stuff, because when I play with Travis and Bryn, we don't like reading stuff. We just like playing it. And this game, I think, has a very nice system to it, but I think it lacks a little bit of bite that I'm used to in other games in this space that I play.
My biggest advice too would be actually, and I don't know how controversial this is, but I would say play out one of the first missions with whatever you build. Feel out how strong and how weak the cards actually are.
Yeah.
Because I think this game has a steep learning curve. This game has one of the steepest learning curves of any long-form campaign that I've ever played, and there isn't a lot of chances to reset.
Yes.
Other than just canceling and starting again.
Yes.
Which I actually think would be good for this game. I think doing a tutorial mission and then rebuilding your deck would be the way to play.
I think that's 100% right.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, kind of why I had a better time, because we actually tried to play this game 2 times, Travis and Bryn. This was my 3rd time attempting to play it. And I feel like you don't really understand how or why cards are useful until you actually put this game into practice. And if we compare it to, like, Arkham Horror, which I play a lot of, Eric has been playing a lot with me, Arkham, while it has, I think, a more complex turn structure, I think is an easier understanding of what you need to do, right? Yeah. Because in a lot of games, you're used to the idea of just killing things or getting mission progress. And this game kind of has that, but it's in very different places. Because even though, like, this game, you can deal damage to animals to kill them, right? You also can, like, connect them away. But really, that's just a second life bar.
Yeah.
Right? Like, mechanically, there's no difference between the two. It's all just flavor and also just, like, the values put on them. It's easier to connect. It's like a easy health bar and a hard health bar, right? But it's very weird to put that into practice. And then also it's very weird to understand that the threat of this game does not come from what is engaged with you at the end of your turn. These things aren't attacking you. But this deck will determine what activates, and the threat of this game then becomes, how are you spending your resources, and how are you able to risk bad reactions to not fall too far behind, because your deck is essentially your life pool.
100%. I also think this game is very low to the ground, And I think that people often misunderstand that a low-to-the-ground game is an easy game. I actually think it's often the opposite. One of the nice things about Arkham Horror is that it leans very heavily into the pulp. A magnifying glass is incredible. Which it should be. It's a game based on pulp and noir aesthetics. Having big stats in Arkham is big wins. This game, it takes a very long time to get to the point where you have big stats because everything is a trickle economy.
Yeah.
Everything is small, and it means that you win or lose based on +1s instead of +8s.
Yes.
Or +4s.
Yeah.
And that can be really hard to get your head around as a player.
And I think that's also where we started to, I think, really click with this game when we realized it wasn't about passing one test. It was about solving the problems and then passing 4 tests to drip the value in our progression as opposed to just, like, bursting it down.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's a very different mindset, as I said, than I find most games like it, and I really enjoyed it for that. I've really appreciated it for that.
Yeah.
But it takes some time to adjust.
Yes. Yeah. So it's one of those things. I think that's the best thing. Like, if you're looking at this as like a recommendation of should I play Earthborne Rangers, I think it's a very hard thing for me to answer. Right. I think Earthborne Rangers is worth a lot of players' time. I think that a lot of players are going to like it, but I think a lot of players have the potential to bounce off of it. I believe there is an actual official, like, first few days built into a tabletop simulator by the publishers, which if you are on the fence and you want to see how the game plays, that could be a great way for you to do it.
Yeah.
I think overall, though, my recommendations for Earthborne Rangers changed after our 3rd time playing together, where I was like, okay, I see where the fun of this game is, and I'm having a good time. I don't think Travis or Bryn would ever like it, but I think that's also a plus for this game, is the fact that it knows what it wants to be, and it has such a distinct style of how it's doing it, that I think that they shouldn't sacrifice that style for the sake of being like all the other board games out there.
I think another thing, too, is that Earthborne Rangers is a very interesting game, genre and story-wise, in that it very much feels like a game that wants you to play it multiple times, because there are lots of, or get to the end and then finish the playthrough doing all the little bits you haven't done already. So I think there's a lot of value in that. I would be very interested in playing it again with different classes and seeing how much that changes things. But its vibe is very hopeful.
Yeah.
But also not so hopeful that it feels like they are faking us out.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I haven't played all of the missions, but spoilers, like, no human character that I'm aware of dies. But they do deal with the idea of ecological collapse. You do, in some of your runs, end up in-story killing things, which is very actually rare in the game and given a little bit of weight behind it, too.
Yeah.
Which I think it makes for a very interesting game. It feels almost Fern Gully in its sensibilities.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, a little bit Disney, but a little bit like a Disney for adults.
Yeah. All right, let's kind of talk about our general thoughts on the mechanics. My 2 big sticking points for this game actually seem to be solved with an expansion that was just announced. So this is kind of like with Eldritch Horror when it came out. There wasn't enough variety in the Mythos cards and the encounter cards, so you kind of just felt like you were doing the same thing again. And it's a little bit tough to recommend you buy Eldritch Horror with Forsaken Lore, and it might be kind of tough to recommend you buy Earthborne Rangers core set with this expansion. But my 2 big sticking points for this game that I have are that the campaign feels too long and the variety is too little. I think those are like the things where if one of those was tweaked, I think that it would be, don't hit his camera though, you can lie on the table. I think that those would be like really good. So like, say for example, the campaign was only, so for reference, it took us 22 sessions to finish the campaign. That is 3 shorter than the average Kingdom Death Monster campaign. games were about an hour each.
Yeah.
Some were a bit longer, some were a bit shorter. So really it took us 22 hours roughly to finish the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And there are only, for example, one of these encounter sets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's only 12 different cards in these environments that you can see multiple times through these sessions. So it's nice because you can kind of learn what's coming, but it's always going to feel the exact same when you're going through them. And while I don't think that breaks the game, for me, because the campaign is so long, I feel like sometimes I'm not like actually playing the game. I'm just kind of going on the rails in my journey.
I would say that I felt the opposite. I actually liked, if they do expand it, I want them to keep some of the theme and some of the feel of each set to make sure that they still remain consistent, because I actually enjoyed getting to learn and getting to know the different parts of the valley and having different vibes and understanding what I was facing. And I felt that the quests, as well as the special locations you get to, each added enough individual flavor that I never started to feel bored seeing things. I actually got really excited when I started realizing that there were interactions to have between Sitka bucks and Sitka does.
That is true.
And how they played out was really, really interesting to me. What I will say, though, is I think that this game suffers a little bit from, oh my goodness, going way, way back. This game suffers from, I think, something that a lot of board games and a lot of tabletop role-playing games want to be, which is the old Fallout style of game where everything is always on a timer. I actually think that one of the problems this game has is that you can't really ignore the main campaign when it's happening, because it often feels like you don't have enough time. Like things are on... There is some sort of risk or some sort of mechanic that's going to punish you for not going fast.
Yeah.
And what this game really needs is to have a handful of breaks in the campaign where you can just slow down and go and do some of the side quests. Or you can relax and spend some time exploring some of the biomes you haven't been in. One of the things I think makes the game very samey is that the campaign forces you to rush. Which... I don't think it's bad. I think big chunks of it should have that. I don't think this is a game where you should feel like you can actually complete everything in the game in a single run.
Yeah.
But I do think that there was too much rush, and it's what also made the campaign feel like it dragged out. One of the things I always hated from games like Oblivion or games like Morrowind is like when you got stuck into a quest, like the Mages Guild in Oblivion, where it's like one thing after another thing happens, and they keep bringing you to new locations, they keep bringing you to new events that you have to deal with immediately. It begins to feel exhausting because you can't take any breaks as the player.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this game... struggles with for me, is that it feels like you don't get to take breaks as a player.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fair, because it's kind of like you don't really get to explore the valley, because if this actually happened to Travis Byrne and I, we went the wrong way. We were on the, so you know how like when the things start flooding, we were like up north and we had to try to get down, right, through the Golden Shore, White Sky, and Kobo's Market. So we only had to go a few. But the game touted itself as being open, and I think that's good, and it is. But the problem is, when the flood started, we were actually on Tumbledown. So, like, we had to go all the way back up, right? And it's one of those things where, like, yeah, that's... You can't control where events happen in the game in terms of, like, you could be on the wrong side of the valley when something goes wrong. But it does mean that it kind of feels, like, harder to explore. There's not, like, a breath for you to be like... Oh, I really want to go see what's up of the fractured wall, a location that we never went to.
No.
Right?
Yeah, the game is open, but it's open in the sense of what a lot of games like Daggerfall, for example. In Daggerfall, you can go and do whatever you want, but if you don't get to certain locations at a certain time frame, you kind of fail the main campaign, or the main campaign gets worse in a way that doesn't feel good. And I think that is two separate... tensions, and that most players are going to do what we did, which is fall into the direction of, okay, we want to do well by the main quest. The game does a good enough job of making you care about the valley that you don't just want to be like, yeah, whatever, we're going to let the spire fall.
I agree completely with that.
And I think that is a weakness of it, because if you have to keep doing main quests over and over and over again, that's where it starts to feel really long to me.
Yeah. And for like also even my comment about the lack of variety in the encounter sets, I wouldn't, for example, want more biomes. But I even want, like, even with the grassland, it was 16 cards, but 4 were removed.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like one of those things where it's like, we went into like here, and it's like we're not necessarily going to always see the Whispering Fields, but there's a chance this could be the Whispering Fields, right?
Yeah.
I think like those are small ways to that at least would have made me feel like there was a bit more. But I completely agree with what you're saying. Like, we never went to the Philosopher's Garden, we never went to the Furrow, the High Basin.
Yeah, there's so many places I wanted to see.
Which is interesting because it means that there's more to explore on repeat plays, but like you said, if we have to go to the same locations all the time, it's going to be hard for us to spend the time going there. Right?
There's almost going to hit a point where you mentally, as players, even on doing repeats, you're like, okay, I do want to go check this place out, but we can't go there unless we can get back to XYZ.
Yeah, because there actually is a good chunk of time. Like, the only one that's really hard is the Flood, because you have like 3 days to do it. But all the other ones were like 5 or 6 days, so they get longer as the game gets later. But it's a delicate balance in terms of pacing that I'd be very curious to see how they work in the future versions of the game.
Yeah.
So for the expansion that was just announced, if you're a fan of Arkham, you'll know MJ, former lead designer and creator of Arkham, has worked on that expansion. It's their first full expansion for Earthborne Rangers. It's adding both more variety to the valley, but also a shorter campaign. And I think that that's good. I think it's fine if they explore like longer campaigns. Like, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with a 22 session campaign. But I think that this game should also have options for a 12 session campaign that has like quicker deck upgrading, which I'm sure is something we're also going to be talking about in the near future in this video.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Let's get our criticism. I'm going to get my criticisms out of the way before I start talking about the good stuff. The other thing that I feel like is a little bit lacking in this game is deck progression, where it's even we were finishing our decks, and we were like, man, our decks are half reward cards. I'm not looking forward to going back to a starting deck because it takes so long to get there. And then also, like, for example, in Arkham, I'm very much excited to build level 0 decks, right? It's very fun. And I think I'm optimistic that this might change now that I have more card knowledge when we build our decks for the next campaign. But the pace in which you upgrade and even the power level of the non-reward cards feel a little bit like I'm starting with a deck that is purposely bad as opposed to a deck I want to play at the start.
This is why I'm too early in my experience with Earthborne Rangers as a whole, and I'm especially excited for the Underground expansion for this, because I feel like I'm too early to fully commit to that criticism, but I do think that there's a strong possibility it's there. I wonder if I built a bad deck and the game just doesn't give you enough chances to reset and fix. An experience I had before we started doing our recent videos of Arkham. Recent, like it hasn't been going on for years. Yeah. I remember the first time I ever played Arkham Horror, I built a garbage deck and I felt like garbage. And it's just because I didn't understand it. I do wonder if Earthborne Ranger suffers from the same thing, where there's almost a level of you need to understand how the game works to build a level 0 deck that works. And
it also could be like when you have, because you've never played Arkham with a small card pool.
Yeah.
Like, a starting card pool for Arkham when you just had the core was really small. We just got an influx of player cards that we didn't have when we first built. So maybe we'll have less need to sacrifice because we don't have anything else to put in here. So, like, that could be a very big thing as well.
Yeah. In which case, if that's the case, like, I totally agree. But it could also just be that this game, as I said, has a brutal learning curve. And the fact that your deck is so fixed for so long means that if you made mistakes in your deck building, you are in a lot of trouble. And that was something I felt in this game. The first people who have been following this, the first deck I made was an attempt to mulch people and turn them into vegetables. At which point I learned that the game actually does not let you kill people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But also that killing monsters wasn't actually that useful for the amount of turns it was going to take for me to mulch them and turn them into a vegetable. And so my deck kind of fell apart for a big chunk of the beginning.
That's another thing I'm very curious about too, because I don't know how much this deck, I'm a Spike gamer. I'm curious to see how much this this game rewards Johnnies. Like, are there strange combos, or are the cards like too well balanced around the goal that it's unable to happen?
Yeah.
Right? That's another thing I can't answer right now, so I'm not going to weigh in on that.
But yeah, it would be. I am very curious to see on our next game, Underground, how much discovery there is in your deck building.
Yeah.
How many weird or strange combos you can put together.
I'm trying to think if I have any other. I think my big criticism is that sometimes it feels boring to walk around the valley because it's all kind of the same stuff. I think that even if like the valley set was bigger, or if it was like built so it's like you always get like 2 environmental valley cards, 1 citizen, like 1 bean valley card.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like could be bigger without sacrificing the fact that you need these people to pass stories.
Yeah. My biggest criticism about this game as a deck building game is that, and again, this could be just deck building and just deck power and understanding what a first level deck needs to look like. I will say that this game feels very dependent on draw and very dependent on a good opening hand, and that if you don't get that, you can just really die.
Yeah.
You can just really fail. It doesn't feel like there's a way to make a consistent enough deck where the low card draw doesn't matter. There's a part of me that wonders if having a 2 in blue in focus or a 3 in focus is itself just incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Because you can, even if you're not doing crazy things with your focus, you can always just consistently draw more cards.
Yeah, and likewise, like the balance between figuring out how you do each of the 4 stats. So like Eric had 3 awareness, I had 3 spirit. We both had 2 of the might, I think it's called, fitness. And you had 1 focus?
I had 1 focus.
I had 1 awa, but I had 2 focus. And I feel like with this game, you kind of want a 3 of either like fitness or like spirit.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm curious if having a 3 in fitness would make you less reliable on the draw.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'm going to try in this next one. I think I'm going to try to be the one who traverses. We'll kind of like switch roles. And
Yeah,
you kind
I'd
of
like
be just
that.
like general management. But again, I think I'm with you on that. Like, I don't really know what it is. And I'm hoping that maybe I can make some discoveries to make things make more sense as it goes. Because, I mean, there's got to be a reason to take 3 awa. There's that 3 awa card that you played, right? I think like maybe we also weren't using our tools as strong as they would be. But like awa's general action only does beans. And I had beans under control. So is it maybe better to have us not, were we both kind of focusing too much on beans and you had to adapt to traversal just because that was the one that you chose for your first flavor building for your deck? Because you were just building based on flavor for the first one. You had no idea how the game actually played.
Yeah. I will say, though, for all of this that sounds like criticisms or sounds like negatives, the fact that we are both sitting here dissecting it this heavily, even our negatives, and being like, well, okay, how do we work around that, is a pretty good sign for a game. Like, even if I've always said that if your criticism of a game goes, I don't like this part of it, I want to figure out a way to bypass it, or to figure out if I'm wrong, that means that the rest of the game was good enough that you still want to play it.
Yes. And even then, like, even the variety, I think the variety is, it's fine. It's my own personal preference for that. I think my only true criticisms of the game are that I feel like deck building is too slow, and I also feel like the campaign is just a tiny bit too long for the weight of everything else around it. But even with that statement, if the deck building was quicker, maybe I wouldn't feel as much worry about the length of the campaign. If there was more variety in things, maybe that would disappear. So we're just trying to give like a conversation about the negatives, but we're about to start talking about the positives because we both enjoyed it, and we're literally going to start building our decks for the next campaign once we're done this video, right?
Yes. So one thing that I think bridges from my criticism of the slow deck building to, I guess, potential criticism, but criticism nonetheless, to a positive is one thing I will say about the rewards in the deck building is because everything is so low to the ground. Okay, let me backtrack. I play a lot of tabletop role-playing games. One of my biggest criticisms always with D&D is the idea that you have to find a balance between rewarding players with adventure tools that they can actually use as characters and rewarding them with random loot that makes sense to the setting. If someone always uses a longsword, you don't want them to always magically find better longswords. That breaks some of the immersion of the game. I think this game found a good balance in that by being like, okay, you're going to find a bunch of magician/shaper cards, but they also have good icons on them. And so you'll actually want to upgrade into them even if you're not a shaper.
Yep.
So there was a sense of like, okay, I found the wrong equipment for my character, but the reward was still good enough that it was worth upgrading my deck. And figuring out a way to have those two balances is very hard in a game.
Yes.
I think it's something that Arkham doesn't always succeed at either. And so for Earthborne Rangers to have actually managed to find that balance with the combination of tokens and, skill icons and actual powers of the cards is really impressive to me.
Yeah, I also like the reward cards. I also liked how the reward cards are earned. Well, my criticism about how the fact that it was too slow, I like the system in which rewards are discovered. You feel like you're connected with the reward more when you earn it through actually completing it through an objective in the quest. I think that's really cool. I think also like the cards that are good are fun to play. That is kind of a positive for the length of the campaign. You feel like you get to know your deck better. Which again, I wish I got to learn my deck as it upgraded better, but that's still like kind of like the thing is I feel like the cards that I liked drawing, and it was fun to, well, not necessarily learn new ways to use those cards because again, the system for this game is so tight that I feel like it's going to play the same way every time. I felt like that I grew to enjoy the cards more depending on like where I was in the campaign for the further along we were.
100%.
I think my biggest positive for this game is the reaction system through these things, through these symbols. This is an incredible concept to give the game turns without actively giving the game a turn. And it's easily the best part of Earthborne Rangers. Well, actually, I think it's the second best part of Earthborne Rangers. But I do think that this is a beautiful mechanic that they play very, very well with the game. And when you learn what is actually active, once you get through that hurdle in your head of what would trigger right now, it is a very simple mechanic to work with as well.
Yeah. And there were times where it felt a little overwhelming because there were like too many triggers happening at once. But the fact that the game lets you choose which triggers go in order.
Yeah, by zones, yeah.
Yeah, so that you can kind of balance it out a bit is really helpful.
Yeah, and then this is also where the difficulty of the game comes because it's actually, this game is all about gaming these.
Yeah.
It's about knowing when and how you can mitigate the negative potential triggers is what the game is. That is what Earthborne Rangers is all about.
Yeah, and it's wildly good at that.
Yeah.
And I will say, too, that it allowed them to put so much flavor into all the cards and into how... The fact that they could create, even with only 16 or 14 cards, small ecosystems that felt like there was actually stuff going on and we were stumbling into it because of these activation abilities and how they all intersected was incredible to me. Yeah,
it's easily just such a mechanical like revelation for board game design. It's a very good system. It's like how you have like you play a game and you're like, oh, that's really good. Like Arkham with its token bag.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, that's really good. This game with its tests, which is a system that is similar to Arkham, but completely different and better in its own ways and worse in its own ways.
Oh, yeah.
I do think that the game could benefit from auto fails. I understand that that's kind of what the -2s are.
Yeah, yes, they are.
Like this one, it's kind of the -2 with the reshuffle. That's what this symbol means right here. But I do think it would be a little bit more tense if these -2s were instead, you know, like that's it.
Or even put in 1 or 2 auto fails that also cause a reshuffle.
Yeah.
The only thing I would be afraid of is accidentally reshuffling into the auto fail multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also, I think, makes an interesting dimension. We never really had cards for it, but we never got to scout that deck terribly often.
No.
But when we did, it felt incredibly powerful.
Yes.
I am very interested in seeing if I can build a class that focuses on scouting this and then modifying the deck.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
My favorite aspect of this game, and what I think is its biggest strength, is its... I'm not going to say writing. I think the writing is fine. I think the characters all just a little bit too... I don't feel like anyone's really different from one another. They all feel like very similar to me.
Yeah. Except for Cassandra.
Yes.
Who we loved.
Yeah.
Cassandra's the only person out here living an actual survival horror.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm just like, lady, you are from the wrong game.
Yeah. But the world, the locations are awesome. I want to visit every spot on the map. I want to see what there is to discover. And while this is the best part about the game, it's actually the thing that is also a big criticism, because the world is... I mean, it's a fun criticism. It's not a bad criticism, so don't get it twisted here.
Yeah.
The world is so interesting and so cool. I wish there was more at every location. I wish there was a reason why I would want to go to the Furrow to discover something there beyond just the 12 cards that go into the Path deck, right? Because, like, all of these things sound so cool. Like, we never went to the High Basin, but that sounds neat. We never even had the possibility going to Headwater Station here.
Oh, but I so want to.
Yeah, we never went, like, there's all these places, like, immediately, both you and Travis were like, I need to go to the Marsh of Rebirth.
And I was not disappointed, can I tell you?
And, like, it's one of the things I wish there was more at all of these. It left me wanting more because the world they built was so cool. I think these locations did a good job. Like the Terravore!
I don't think we ever went to the Terravore.
Like, these locations are all really cool, and I think they do a good job of painting a picture with the location cards. But if they released a pack for this game that was just like a mission for every location, I would buy it and put it in all my games, even if it bloated the hell out of it.
Oh my god. I would happily play this game if they released an expansion that was like, we're dropping the main campaign, your goal is to visit every location and complete something there. I would absolutely play that version of this game.
I also think that this game is open enough that they could actually release a campaign that uses the exact same map, but just comes in with a pack of new, like, path cards and general cards that they could use to build campaigns with.
Yeah.
You just take this map, and then suddenly there's, like, a creature comes out of the Terravore. I don't even know what it is, but it looks like a big mouth. So
I assume it is.
But, like, that's the thing, right? Like, I think that the world in this map can be so open that they're able to do stuff like that, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah. Each location also actually had really fun mechanics. Some of them were absolutely lethal, and I loved that. Especially in the mountains. Woof, the mountains are hard. But I actually really love that not only is every location interesting and attractive, it's flavorful.
Yep. Like the bridge that can collapse you to drop you right into the citadel. Right?
Yep.
There was the one outpost that was studying people. The biological outpost, but it brought monsters to it, like creatures to it, because it's like meant to study the creatures.
Yeah. I loved the way that Spire and White Sky worked in terms of like going into town and exploring.
Yes.
The only one that I hated was Kobo's Market, because I was like, we need to go.
Yeah.
Stop trying to sell me shit. You're hurting me.
I think, that's the thing too, that while if there were actually less general sets, but more like things that could appear even at all of these, just cards that you could put into the deck.
Yeah.
Even if it was just in addition to the general path cards, like the path cards that are just like the valley cards. If there was just more to do, I would not complain.
Yeah.
I would not complain. I would want more, and I would take more.
Absolutely. Which is good. The game leaves you wanting more.
Yep. I think overall, as we talked about, B+ to A- generally, with highs of A, lows of B- when I just feel like I'm wandering for no reason.
Yep.
But my biggest recommendation for this game is to play it with someone who can really just jump into the flavor with you, right? It makes the game more fun, it makes the game more exciting, and I don't think this is a game that you aim to try hard. I think this is a game that you just experience.
Yeah.
Which sounds a little bit, like, weird, but the game became better when I was just like, okay, how am I gonna enjoy this session, right? And then the story is like, oh yeah, I did enjoy that, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anything you else want to add?
I love hydro worms.
Yeah, you do. You do.
I do.
All right.
I love the biomelds. What a great addition.
Yeah, yeah. I think the whole thing is very cool, and I'm excited to see what they do in the next set, which we're going to start our deck building on. So thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of Earthborne Rangers. Hopefully this gave you some insight of what our thoughts were. I think we both agree, though, thumbs up, and we're going to be playing more of it. So I think that's a good sign. And I mean, as I said at the start of this, at this point now, I'm going to buy expansions going forward. I'm into the game enough to do that. So hell yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one, and as always, GG's.